Okay. Go ahead and just get rolling with these.
There we go. I think that looks better.
Tweeter.
Can you make smaller than everyone else? I lost my fake tooth and I'm embarrassed about it.
That's what?
I said I lost my fake tooth and I'm embarrassed about it.
I can't even see it.
I know. That's why I have the camera all up on that up angle. Working those angles like a Instagram model.
You're my hero.
You're my... Look at Mike Porter with those instant retweets, dude.
Yeah,
What a
he is
champion.
quick.
What a
He's a
champion,
retweet.
dude. Dude, he is.
He is very quick. I'm almost done with this already.
Oh.
And then, just for Mega's sake, we're gonna try and keep it at an hour or 45
Sounds good to
minutes,
me.
because he's hurting in the heat. So, and I told him too, if at some point he gets just too hot, like, it's totally cool to just dip out. Like,
Yeah, do what you gotta do, man.
so I was like, well, I'm not gonna make him sit in here. If
That'll be good. I got water.
you got what?
Burke, do you like this purge mask that I got?
Did you say purg?
Purg. Purge? Is it purge or purg?
It's 100% purge.
I've been saying this movie wrong the whole time. Thought it was the purg.
Seen the purg?
No, that was did you never see that that college humor sketch?
No.
They're like doing like some parody of the purge, but the one guy just keeps calling it the purg, and they all keep like yelling at it, like literally like in the exact way that you did to me just now. That's why they're like, did you say the purg or the purge? And he's like, purg.
You guys didn't pop up in here? I'm almost
Got my
done,
new
guys.
laptop. And it's beautiful.
I'm just gonna go check on Kate and Nora one more time before we get started.
Okay.
And yeah, an hour works for me. I'm going live at like 6, I think.
That's 6?
I'm gonna do
Okay. What time is it for you there?
3:30. I forgot we're all in different times.
Bro, it literally...
We were like, okay, so it's this.
You know, I feel really bad for not being able to get that MCU guy in here, but it was just tough. Yeah, we know you can hear us, Boulder. We know you can hear us, Landon. I hope you can hear me.
It's called banter, Landon.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm gonna
That's
go
what
ahead and do the
podcasts are
countdown.
about.
I'm gonna do the countdown, guys, and then we're gonna do an intro, and then we're gonna go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So 3, 2, 1. What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Nerd Rebellion podcast. Today we're going to be finally discussing the DisneyPlus series Loki. All 6 episodes, we're covering the show as a whole, what it means for the future of the MCU, the movies, the TV shows, everything that's involved with it. Some of the people that we're going to have on today, we were able to get under tough circumstances, and also, thank you for the Red Galaxy Man. Under tough circumstances, and some people were unable to make it just because of time zone restrictions and just being in the UK. So at that MCU guy, if you're hearing that, you know you're with us in spirit here. So if you want to jump in and if you're awake, you're more than welcome to. So with that being said, we're gonna bring in MegaGeek, BurketheNerd, and Tylerdakid. All right, fellas, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing well. Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Happy New
Me
Year.
too. Happy to be here, I think you said.
Yeah, I said happy to be here, not
New
happy
Year
New
as
Year. I
well.
mean, happy late New Year, everybody.
I thought you
At
said.
all.
Yeah,
Maybe I need
in
a
case
hearing
you
aid. Maybe I got
in
my
case you
headphones
weren't
on.
at our New Year stream, happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Well, let's get right into it. First off, we can do it now or later. You can tell people where they can find you. We'll probably do that at the end. But so we'll start with the first question. Let's just jump right into it. So obviously, we've had some pretty great Disney Plus shows and content that they've given us, with more coming with What If. The first question I have for you guys to answer is, what were your thoughts on the show Loki as a whole compared to the other two? And we have been confirmed that there is going to be a new director for a second season. So let's just start with that. Like, what did you think of the show as a whole compared to the others and by itself? And what are your thoughts on bringing in a new director right away? So let's start with Mega.
The show as a whole, I liked it a lot more than the other two shows. Main reason is because Loki did a lot more like expansive, I guess, just as the universe as a whole. Like, no pun intended, the whole show is about like the multiverse, but Captain America or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision, they kind of developed their story, which is cool. Like, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that, building up their characters and seeing where their storylines are going. But then when you get into Loki, it's really like, it's not just about Loki, but it's more about like where the universe is headed, as far as like this phase. So that's why I liked this show a lot more, and I thought it was very well written. As far as like the director goes, I hope Marvel really hasn't been able, or like hasn't picked anyone that's a bad choice as far as like all the shows and movies go. I mean, maybe the next director won't be as good, but still, like, the writers and the people that are working on the show, like, I have like a lot of faith in what Marvel's doing. So it's hard for me to say like,
Yeah.
okay, the show is gonna go, completely south because they lose the director. I think I think there's still hope in the show. I don't think it's gonna drop at all. I mean, they set like a huge foundation for the show moving forward, so
Mhm.
it's really hard to kind of mess this up. At least fingers crossed. But I'm in the direction where like it's gonna be fine with the new director.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, the show was probably the best out of the three, as well, and I really didn't expect it to be, because honestly, I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for it. I never really cared too much for the character of Loki, other than he was in the Avengers movies, and he was Thor's brother. That was kind of like menacing. Like, he always seemed like that side character that I guess that kind of got sidelined after a movie or after a project was there. But then, so when they announced this one in WandaVision, I was like, I'm only really super excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier, which that I did love that show, for what it was. But Loki definitely is probably my favorite show out of the three. So I was thoroughly surprised by it, just even based off of the first episode, where it was like, all right, we're gonna jump right into this thing. Like, I feel like that's what a lot of these shows have been doing, is they're giving you like the meat and potatoes right away. You're not getting an appetizer or anything. Like, you're not getting just like a slow build up. Like, these shows have really not shied away from giving you big events in fast manners.
I like that you said you're not getting an appetizer.
Like, yeah, I mean, you're not, like, they're giving you, like, they would end an episode and you'd be like, well, I'm probably gonna have to wait for like 30 minutes into the next episode, right? But like, it was like right off the bat, like, and the story just kept chugging along like no one's business. So I really enjoyed that about the show. And
Especially with the the last episode.
yeah, 100% with the last episode. I thought we were gonna have some filler moments, and we really didn't. So, my thoughts on on having a new director for season two, I have total trust in what Marvel does and what Kevin Feige and his overall decisions over the MCU. So if they ultimately can't keep one director, they're like, Loki is kind of like that special child that the MCU has that they just love and adore, and they're not gonna mess this up. So like season 2 is gonna be just as good as season 1, if not better. So I have confidence in it. What do you think about it, Tyler?
I'm totally okay with them using a different director in season 2. I'm looking at an article right now that's like explaining her leaving, and she basically, so there's no bad blood, there's no conflict or controversy or anything. She's just leaving because she signed on for this, and then they announced that there would be a season 2. So
Okay.
like nothing happened or anything. She said she's focusing on other stuff, and that she does look forward to maybe doing something in the future. But as of now, there's like nothing in the works with her and Marvel. But she's totally open to going back with them.
I hope she comes back.
Yeah, the only thing that I want is I hope that the next director imitates the visual style. That's the only thing that I hate, is when shows like totally change visual styles between seasons because of like directors leaving. I don't want it to look completely different. Other than that, I as long as they don't dramatically change the look of the show, I feel like everything else will be fine, because the writer is staying the same as far as I know for right now.
Yeah, I think some shows that really suffered from new directors and just new leadership overall is a lot of like the CW shows have had different writers throughout different seasons.
Oh boy.
And they I love the CW shows. I still watch them, but like they tend to suffer a little bit, which tends to make the fan base suffer a bit, because the shows do become a little bit unwatchable at times.
Me and
for
Burke are
me.
definitely laughing at the same
Me
time.
and Tyler were laughing because of a TikTok that Tyler sent me like
About
yesterday from their fight with like
the lightsaber battle in the Flash.
I haven't watched it yet, and I saw something about that, and I wanted to just, you know what I would rather do than see all 3 Flash characters holding lightsabers made out of lightning. I'd rather jump off the Empire State Building on a bike with no seat. But that's just me. I mean,
Mike, can I tell you something that's not even the worst of it?
no. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about what happens later.
I was gonna make it brief. I was gonna tell you what the dumbest part is, but we'll continue.
We'll do it after we're done recording here.
Yeah.
So Burke, what did you think of the show and all the decisions being made?
Yeah, so just a quick thought. While there is a season 2, I think that a misrepresentation, at least from my understanding, is that they're diverting from formula. And I would say, looking at Loki season 2, I don't think it's, and this is just my assumption again, obviously it's going to be a continuation of the story, and there's going to be, we had a cliffhanger, so there's a lot to tie up. But I think that we can expect a entirely different story out of season 2. I mean, we look at season 1, and while it ended with a big, Kang cliffhanger, there was a story arc that was followed, and it was concluded at the end of that story. Now we have a new big bang, and we have a new story to show. So while we may get, if we still have Michael Waldron on it, which, he's the writer, he's from Rick and if we still have him on it, then we're going to get a lot that's likely due to the fact that the multiverse is still going to be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
And the story needs to stay continuous. I think thematically it's going to feel very different from the first season. And I think we should go in expecting that we're getting a second movie almost, instead of a continuation of the same story, where there are threads that continue through, just like there, Thor 2 to Thor Ragnarok. But really, are they the exact same story? I don't know. I think it's going to be closer, because it's actually, a season 2. But I think we can expect it to feel very different. And I think that's the reason that they picked a different direction.
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable assertion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't call it season 2. I wouldn't even want them to do that. I think it'd be, you just continue like a sequel. You do Loki, colon something, right? And then have that story be a sequel instead of a season 2.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to do
it. They
or
could call
not.
it like Loki Elseworlds or something like that, and then there's like some other
stuff going on. I agree with that.
And I have theories that I'm sure we'll get to at some point as to like what its doing and what role Loki plays in the broader MCU, like in the season. But my thoughts on this show, my most anticipated was Falcon and Winter Soldier of the three. It ended up being my least favorite. WandaVision was a fantastic start. Falcon and Winter Soldier was still very great, but Loki blew me away. And I think it really does come down to Michael Waldron, his experience and his willingness to take risks. But another factor I think comes big into play there was that
What else did you say he worked on?
Rick and Morty.
Okay,
yeah.
well,
And it shines through. As soon as you could see why they picked him up instantly. This is clearly his alley. But what made it the most, and I knew this going into the series, is the Loki writers and directors, they were talking about how WandaVision and Winter Soldier were given this task of being their own isolated stories to prop up these characters. When the Loki series was greenlit, they were like, "Hey, we want you to build our universe with this series. We want you to tie in." And so they were saying, when we're writing the series, we wanted to tie as much MCU as we could into this series. And I think that shines through, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people grabbed onto this show more than the other two, is because we felt lacking the connectivity in the two, because they're building up these new characters that are going to play big roles. But Loki's had a big role throughout the MCU, and we know who he is. We have him very well established, and it did give us that, but it really also allowed it had enough room to breathe to build out the story or build up the universe as well. So I think it had a lot going for it, and obviously it's introducing us a huge new concept. I think this is the the start of a big multiversal event where this is like the equivalent of the Tesseract showing up in Captain America 1.
Yeah,
we're getting the first piece put together to a big overall plot.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really great answer, and that's a perfect answer to segue into the next question. Actually, right away, is yes or no? Just a side question. So I'm seeing all sorts of fan theories coming in all over the internet. Do you guys think that the ending of Loki ties into the ending of WandaVision, where she's using the Darkhold and she hears her kids again? Yes or no? We don't need no explanations, just yes or no. Do you think that these two shows' endings tie into each other, or no?
No.
Mega says no.
Can there be like a middle answer that is vaguely?
I think it's more irrelevant, where it could be.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think they're going to be related in a way, but I don't think they're like directly connected.
They easily could be. I think leaning towards yes. Yes.
I don't know.
I'm going yes, and the reason why yes is because I feel like that could be the moment when the timelines, when the sacred timeline gets branched out. So that's all I'm going with. Burke, on your audio, it's kind of like in and out a little bit.
Okay, let me.
I'll give you a minute. I'll give you. Well, I'll come to you like last on the next question, so you can get some stuff figured out on it.
All right.
The second question I have is, how does the show impact the future for the MCU, other than the obvious reasons that we saw? We saw the sacred timeline that's officially branched, because what Kang does in the show is he, for those people who want to know, this is going to be spoilers, so just a warning. He essentially tells Loki and Sylvie that I paved the way for you to get here, and he means everything, not just in the show. He means like everything in the time heist, like all 23 MCU films that we've seen. He means everything. I paved the way for you guys to get here. You've reached the end of time. So now one of two things is going to happen. You're going to kill me, and I'm going to have a bunch of variants of myself cause havoc on the multiverse, essentially. And the other option is that they leave him there and they don't kill him. And for once in Loki's life, maybe twice or three times, he finally does the right thing with actual, no, stab in the back mentality behind it. He legitimately believes that he's telling the truth. We need to listen to what he's saying. and Sylvie sends him back to the TVA. She kills him, and then we see all these different timeline branches. Mobius doesn't remember Loki, as they've known each other for a little bit now on the show. They don't know who he is. The statues have changed into the TVA. Everything is changed now. So how do you guys think this show impacts the future for the MCU, other than what we saw and the timelines branching? Let's start with Tyler on this one.
Wait, I'm sorry. How do we feel about what?
How do you think the show is gonna impact the future of the MCU?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Other than the obvious reasons that we saw.
I was moving my windows on my monitor around. I'm sorry. I think that going forward, there's gonna be, obviously we have a movie called Quantumania, and we have another movie called The Multiverse of Madness coming out.
Yep.
So obviously this is going to affect the Marvel universe heavily, but I want to know more so, like, I don't want to talk about like rumored like actors and stuff and get down that rabbit hole, but like I want to know, like, really, like, how many other properties are we going to see? Like, I want to know, like, if they're really just going to go balls to the wall in the next phase and start introducing like a lot of the mutants really heavily and stuff like that. Like, that's the stuff that I want to know more so
Right.
than just like what I think Loki in particular is doing. Because I would really like to see some of the X-Men really start to come into the MCU. I know that they probably have a plan that'll be better than what I can theorize,
Right.
but also maybe not.
Where are you at on Mega?
I mean, like, the end of the show, it literally puts Marvel up to like infinite possibilities of where they could take it. Like,
Right.
it's like I've been talking about this with other people, and it's like everyone's like, oh, I hope Marvel doesn't do this, but I mean, in the comics, they do it all the time. Is like when there's
Literally all the time.
they have a multiverse, and then characters die, but then they come back because the multiverse happens, and like there's alternate versions of everyone. So like there could be another Iron Man from another universe that's replaced, not a Robert Downey Jr., but like just
Right.
another person that plays as Iron Man, just living in a different life in another multiverse. So it's just like it's hard to really pinpoint how many things they could possibly do. Like with Secret Invasion coming out, and how they portray the Skrull in the beginning to be all like good people, right? But
Mhm.
now the multiverse gets all screwed up, so then the Skrulls from other
yeah.
universes can come through, and like that could probably explain why the Secret Invasion is even going to take place in the first
Right.
place. Because originally we get this feeling that, oh, the Skrulls are good, and it's all because of the Kree. The Krees are the assholes. But then now, like, the multiverse happens, and why does Secret Invasion even take
That's a
place in
different
the,
story.
like, what is their motive, right? So then so it's just there's so many things. And then my another theory for me is like because of the multiverse expand, or like how it does that, is like it could be a segue into how Galactus gets created in the
Yeah.
first place, because he gets created because the universe goes through a universal crunch or whatever. And so like if that happens, is this the event that takes place that creates Galactus, and or is that how they're going to segue into him, because
Right.
the Eternals are coming out, right? So then Celestials are going to be a thing, like a lot more apparent than they used to be, because they just teased it in Guardians of the Galaxy with just a floating celestial head, right?
Mhm.
And then you come out, and then they do the multiverse thing, and then Eternals, I know, is all about the Celestials, so then that's coming through. So then
Yep.
Galactus is probably going to play a part in the near future because of that. And then with Fantastic Four coming out, and then Silver Surfer, so it's just like there's so many directions that they opened up with this whole show. Just like it's so hard to say what direction they're gonna go, but just like the names of the movies that are coming out can kind of give you an idea of the direction. But like
Right.
it's just, yeah.
Here's what I want to
characters are gonna
know.
bring back,
Go ahead, Tyler.
Here's what I want to know. Is Galactus going to be a giant cloud this time, or is he
No.
going to be a giant
No,
man
hell
in
no.
space?
No fucking way they're
Is
gonna
he going to be
do
a
that.
giant? Is he going to be a giant man in space, or is he going to be a
He's
cloud?
not
I
gonna
want
be
to
a
know
fart
that.
in the wind.
no,
He's
we're-
gonna be a fucking real person.
Okay, so he's
They're
a
gonna do
giant man in space. All right, gotcha.
They already done Giant Man.
Wait, who was Giant Man in space before?
We've seen the Celestials.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
No, we've seen Giant Men in space.
No. I just mean like the Celestial. They look more like it's like a giant like robot head skull. I just like Galactus literally just looks like a giant
I know.
dude. Like
Yeah.
that's
They got
that's what I
sure.
just. Yeah.
For
But
sure.
yes, no, there are definitely giant space people in the MCU. That's already a thing.
Yeah.
That would be sick if
Bryan Cranston as Galactus. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so I agree. I like what Megan just said too about that. Is like the possibilities of anything now are completely endless. Like they can do anything they want now, and I really do think the show is going to tie into the Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man: No Way Home, which I'm still shocked we haven't seen a trailer or a teaser for. I mean, it's coming out very within 6 months. I mean, we should be getting something soon. But I do think that this specific event from Loki is especially going to affect those two projects right off the bat. I think that's why we're going to get the possibility to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back. And I mean, even if it's just to see them, you know what I mean? I think that's going to be a thing. So, Burke, what do you think about this?
So what do I think that Loki is working towards in the MCU? How does it affect it?
Yeah, how does this impact the future of the MCU?
Now, I've been saying this for a while. I'm definitely not the first person to have theorized this. I'd like to think my version of the theory is my own. But I believe that this is leading towards Secret Wars. To me, that's a natural conclusion for how you can tell a multiverse story. Go into the overwhelmingly concept of the multiverse, and then end it in an arc that concludes with the multiverse problem gone for the moving forward in the MCU. So you have a big, 1, 2, 3 phase leading up to Secret Wars, where the multiverse is continually expanding, getting more chaotic. We're seeing people jump over all different which ways, and then concluding with this multiverses are collapsing, and there's this big battle, and ultimately concluding with, which I know it's not exactly how it goes in Secret Wars comics, but ultimately concluding with either like 1 or 2 being the only multiverses left. Now, how I think Loki plays a part into that is I think Kang is going to either replace Doom in this idea, or he's going to replace the Beyonders. Now, for people that aren't Secret Wars, the Beyonders, and I forget which run, I think in both the Beyonders play a heavy role in creating the battle world that they are all put on. But pitting all of these people against each other, I think we've already seen Battle World, and I think it's the Void. I mean, the literal Battle World is a patch of a bunch of different parts of the multiverse thrown together and made into a big world where all these different variants of the same types of characters are all thrown in a pile together, and they're all fighting. You got Thor Corps, right? Maybe they're all thrown into a ported over removed timeline of Asgard that was popped into the Void, and maybe Eliath stops consuming everything, right? Maybe they get rid of Eliath, or one of the Kangs defeats Eliath, right? And actually starts creating his battle world out through the Void even larger. Drops in Asgard there, drops in New York City there, drops in all these different places that we've seen in the MCU into the Void, and then we see all these different variants that are getting pruned from the timelines. A bunch of Spider-Man, and then you get, or all the symbiotes, and then you get the little symbiote world that exists in Battle World. You get, the land of like vampires, and you get all of these different pruned variants that are all clumped together and migrate towards each other. That's how you get the Thor Corps. That's how you get all these things.
Right.
It's being built by a Kang instead of the Beyonders, and then you could, assuming, I think that we're seeing this in Quantumania, and being someone that's people that have been in the quantum realm for a long time, maybe they have conflict with Kang already and have been trapped because of a conflict with Kang, and we could see them and Doctor Doom all dealing with Kang in the multiverse this whole time, or hiding from him or something, and then that naturally builds up to Battle World as well, where Doom does play his role that he plays in the Hickman run, where he does take over in full Battle World after, with Kang being a being that's outside of Battle World that they have to get to. And kind of where Loki plays in is, to me, Phase 4 is pulling new characters, building the universe, like building new characters and building on Kang, building on the role everyone. But Loki's world building. Loki is establishing the rules, right? In Loki season 1, we understand what a multiverse is now. We understand what variants are now. We understand what the Void is. We understand who Kang, or kind of who Kang is, or how Kang started, right? Who Nathaniel Richards is and how he got there.
Right.
And season 2 is going to build on the legacy of Kang, and I think we're going to see in that a revisiting of the Void, a further explanation of the Void and how it's bigger than we thought. We're going to start to see how this new Kang is using the Void to build it out. So I think Loki's just going to be this thing that's running on the side, outside of time, while our main timeline is going, where it's going to all culminate into this big battle world. And I think that is a time where we can naturally see a lot of people brought in. I don't think the X-Men come into that until after, because then a good way to say it is like the mutants are a timeline, the only other multiverse that wasn't affected or something like that. And you could bring them in an X-Men versus, Avengers movie that happens after this, where the only two multiverses left are these two, and the X-Men need to escape to their. There's this whole crossing borders symbolism and all these things, and I think there's a lot of really cool things you could do with X-Men, but I think they wait for it. So that's kind of my theory. I know it's long. it's longer if I let myself rant, and I'm gonna cut it there, so I don't go deep in the trenches.
It's all good. I love that answer. It's very in depth, and I just love that all the directions that it's going. So don't apologize for it. It's great. So the next question is, it actually ties into what you just discussed, Burke. Are we going to see multiple variants of Kang throughout multiple projects in the MCU now? And is the worst version of Kang going to be a Thanos level type villain that we're going to build up to? Or is he going to be kind of like a pawn leading towards Galactus, as Mega was talking about?
Hey, Mike, can I add on one more thing to your question?
Yeah.
And if there is multiple Kangs, do you think they'll all be played by Jonathan Majors, or do you think there'll be other actors playing other Kangs too?
Sure. I think it's always going to be Jonathan Majors playing him. That's his baby. I watched the documentary. I watched the documentary of Loki yesterday, and so I do think that the way he worded everything, this is his character. There's gonna be nobody else coming in and play a different variant in any way, shape, or form. But I really do think that Jonathan Majors is the guy.
I want him to be. I was just throwing that in there because there was other people that were there was we had Sylvie was a variant of Loki. There was the one that
I see what you're getting at.
Yeah. I don't want there necessarily, but do you think there will be as as an add-on to your question about variants of Kang?
No, sure. I think for me, for the answer to the original question too is, I do think we're gonna see multiple variants of Kang. I do think that he's gonna be in different projects. He's gonna appear in different variants, and I think that's gonna be the fun thing about his character, actually. And I actually think that Galactus is gonna eventually show up, but for now, Kang is gonna be this next big threat. As they wouldn't tease Kang the way they did, where he who remains even said, well, he's coming, or he'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Good luck. You guys made the wrong choice type thing. You know what I mean? So I really think that we're not going to be getting Galactus for a little bit still. That's going to be more of an event tied to the X-Men when we finally do get the X-Men. But for now, I think this is going to lead more towards just Kang and bringing in Fantastic Four in Phase 4. And it's just going to be Kang's world in Phase 4 and maybe a little bit further. But that's where I'm at on it. Let's start with Burke on this one.
So I do want to say, when we're talking about variants, my first variant Kang that was going to show up was going to be the Power Broker.
Which one?
Said that the Power Broker.
Okay.
Because in the comics, the weird helmet, he's like a robot looking dude, and so they were hinting at this. For me, it was this theory that Kang's gonna be showing up in the MCU already before we even got Loki. We had this theory, like people were thinking about it and talking about it. So I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we see him? I still think there's a chance. I think Sharon Carter hasn't. Sharon Carter, if you go back and watch, does not directly say that she is the. She just kind of like nods her head when that. Which, if you're working for the power, I feel like you're like the power broker tells you, hey, you can pretend to be the. Like I still think that's so. I think it's a little chance, but that was my first theory.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good theory.
Looks like he has a variation of Kang's armor, so that was my original thought for the first one. I have some other ones too.
Yeah, like Burke, I was gonna say just like real quick to add on to what you're saying. If you were the power broker, you'd be the type of person that would say, protect my identity at all costs, even if you have to take the blame for my actions. So I think maybe that's like why she kind of like you said, kind of like just nervously shakes her head. Maybe it's kind of like one of those things where like like
I see what you're saying.
She's so maybe indebted to him or loyal to him that she is just like I'll say that I'm him so that way they don't continue to look.
I really wish that MCU guy was in here for this part, especially because he actually called out from I think like the first episode or even before the series started that the power broker was Sharon Carter, and like he had this, he had this whole video on his TikTok about being like, I told you so, like none of you believed it, like. And
meanwhile, I had a full about how the power broker was.
Like I went on to his podcast a couple times, or like his live streams that he was doing, and we talked about it a bit, and I really just like. I kind of always knew that they were going to place Sharon Carter as the power broker, but I didn't really want to accept it because it was very, in a way, predictable. So,
and I think ultimately it's going to be what it is, especially because, I mean, you look at Loki's... Kang is protecting the sacred timeline, which he would be aware if that was Kang, another Kang variation. So that would be a reason for not thinking it is. But it's a fever dream. I think he's going to be an end credit guy for a while. I think we might see some... small things here and there, but I think that like really it's just gonna be like end credit scenes and then Quantum Mania. I think Thor: Love and Thunder we could expect something.
Oh yeah, something for sure.
Even then, I don't know. I mean, but with Loki showing up in Doctor Strange, which I don't know that it's confirmed, but it's like almost confirmed. That to me is like an indication that we're gonna get something, but I don't think it's gonna be large. I still think Loki might just be like hey, he's in Doctor Strange, but really it's just he's at the end of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's going to be at the end because like he'll be kind of like maybe he'll show up and everyone's kind of like, oh my god, not this idiot again.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be this new version of Loki that we saw on the show and be like, guys, I'm not lying. There is a bad man coming. Like,
right.
And so I think that's where that could go. So Mega, where do you stand on this? Do you think we're gonna see multiple variants of Kang? Is the worst version gonna be Kang as a Thanos level villain? Or are we gonna be aiming towards Galactus? Like where are you shooting to the moon on this here?
Yeah, I don't think Galactus is gonna be the main villain for this phase. I think it's definitely gonna be a further down the line kind of thing. But the only reason I said it was like, is this the event that creates him, or is it the event that happens when they defeat Kang that creates Galactus, or how is that gonna go? But I think Kang is the Thanos of this phase. Like he is gonna be, what we're all building towards. I think he's gonna come off as a lot more powerful because Kang, like the thing with Thanos is that he was limited by the fact that he was trying to balance the universe. Kang is not that at all. Like he wants to conquer the entire universe. So it's like he's going to be a lot more ruthless, and he's not really, he's not going to like, but I mean like Thanos like had a lot of emotions for people, right? Like he had, you could see that he
yeah, and in a weird way, yeah.
Like you kind of felt empathetic sometimes with like the way that he was feeling. That's like you kind of identify with some of the things that he said. So it's like, but with Kang coming around, he's gonna be like a lot more like just I really don't care. Like this is gonna be my universe kind of thing. And I think like I think variants are gonna play a role in the future. I think just like how we saw this variant at the end was like the reason why he was trying to balance everything, because his other variant that was trying to create the multiversal war, he put an end to it. And I think another Kang variant might be a key point to how they defeat the Kang that's creating the multiversal war again, basically. So, there'll probably be a lot more Kangs that they're going to be talking to. Just like with any other hero, I think they're going to be running into other variants of other heroes in the future.
Let's
Hey,
hopefully
Mike,
let's
I have a
hopefully not.
question.
Go ahead.
I just had a question for you and for him because it just made me think of it. Like, do you feel like Kang is going to have the same like stick that Thanos does? Because I mean, you talked about like how like Thanos you can sympathize with him, and most villains that people consider good or like well written villains or villains you can like sympathize with. Do you feel like he's going to end up being that? Because even this carrot version of Kang that we got, like he still was a prideful, like he's like, oh, I saved the multiverse, but really he just conquered all of it,
Right.
and just was leading it in his one timeline. Like he was still the conqueror.
I feel
It just was him making a reason for it.
I feel like for me, like with Marvel, like they do this thing with their villains all the time that like they make you find a way to sympathize, and I can't really place my thumb on one villain that you're kind of like, well, I kind of feel bad for them in a little bit. Maybe other than Ego. Ego is just kind of awful, but I think that there's like some that you can go down a list of them. Like Hela was literally like outcasted by her family and forgotten about, so like that's why she's pissed. Like it makes sense. Thanos is like, I lost my family. Like Dark Elves were definitely like, they had like basically been like totally terminated and gone.
Yeah.
And then like you could just go down a list of them, like the villain from Yellow Jacket. Like he is this guy that's just wanting so much approval from Hank Pym that eventually he gets to this point where he's like, I'm just gonna do this on my own then. Like if you're not gonna like share the information, I'm gonna like work my butt off. I'm gonna study my brain off, like, and I'm gonna be better than you. And in a sense, he really believes in what he's doing. But like with Kang, I don't think it's there now, and I guess I still really had a hard time sympathizing with Thanos. So like I want to know where Mega's coming from with that, because like when you dust half the universe just because like you think there's too many people or like the resources the issue, like I guess I have a hard time sympathizing with Thanos because he literally sacrificed his own daughter to get power. So I mean I want to hear more on that. I'm not like discrediting that at all. Like I think I'm just very confused at how you can sympathize with that man.
If you
Go for it.
the whole
makes
point,
sense.
the whole point there was not like, yeah, he's killing half of the universe. I understand that, but like his motive was that, like, it was just too saturated, right? Like the universe is getting overpopulated, and he's trying to control. Like, just like in, what's the last movie I just watched? The Kingsman, right? With Samuel L. Jackson. Like, his whole point is to kill off the virus, right? And Thanos has pretty much the same motive. Like, he's trying to put balance back into the universe because he thinks that, like, he genuinely believes that, like, he's doing the right thing for the universe,
That is
right?
true.
He's trying to actually...
to him, he wasn't killing half of the universe. He was saving half of the universe.
He's like an eco-terrorist where it's like, okay, I get that you're trying to solve a problem, you're just doing it the wrong way.
He literally is an eco-terrorist.
Yeah, that's
Fair
exactly.
enough. Fair enough. You guys explained it for me. I get it now. So, but yeah, I think that it's going to be fun to watch Kang be sympathized with because you know what they're going to do. Marvel's going to like pull a card out of nowhere and they're going to show you something about Kang, like, and they already started that. Like, they literally showed He Who Remains as being scared of himself. Like, that's why he has been at the end of time this long and basically just hiding and writing everything. Like, he's scared of himself. So
sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say he's scared of himself, like, and that speaks volumes because he like already knows that there's worse versions of himself. So
right. I don't think that like whatever the Kang variant that we see at the very end of Loki in the TVA, I don't think that one, which is possibly like the worst possible Kang, I don't think he's gonna have the same personality as the Jonathan Majors Kang or Immortus that you want to say that we saw in that Sanctum building or whatever. I think the next one's gonna be extremely like you're gonna have an almost to upset Burke and bring Star Wars into this. I think we're gonna have a very Thrawn-like villain, just cold, calculating, stoic.
Oh yeah, I'd love
Uh,
that.
yeah, I don't think he's gonna
Star
be.
Wars. I like
Yeah.
Star Wars. I just don't like Star Wars fans.
No, I agree. I hate Star Wars fans too, and I love Star Wars more than anything else in the world, except obviously like my daughter and my wife. And Nora's gonna be a Star Wars fan, so I probably
And
will
the Power
have her at some
Rangers.
point. Yeah, and the Power Rangers, but only because of Tim and Parker. Before that, I liked them.
So let's get back on track here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
But yeah, I think the Kang that we're gonna see, that's like the Omni Kang or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the Kang the Conqueror, the real. I think he's gonna be very, very Thrawn, like very cold, calculating, stoic. Like
Yeah.
probably won't talk a lot. We're not gonna see that manic pixie dream girl version of Kang that we got, where he's all like fun and running around, kind of cracking jokes and stuff that we saw at the end of Loki. Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads into the next question too, very well, Tyler. Actually, is like, did you guys enjoy the pacing of this show? And if you had any issues with the show, what were they specifically? So I'll go ahead and answer just to start, just to get my answer out of the way. I did enjoy the pacing of the show. I already said at the beginning that there's a lot of shows that like they make you wait 2-3 episodes, or they make you wait 40 minutes into a finale to really get like something that you want to see. And I think what was kind of like really sad to actually see online is that you saw this this really mad, ridiculous response to the finale where people were like, well, great, I guess I sat down for an hour to just watch talking. But like every rebuttal I would give people, like, you do understand that it just like totally set up phase 4 for the future. Like, we got the conversation out, we got the dialogue out of the way, we know where King came from, we know like his origin already, and just like literally 30 minutes, let alone you're getting basically a 6-hour movie with all 3 of these shows, which is technically, we're spoiled in that sense. And I guess to complain about like there not being a whole bunch of action in a finale, but it was like straight dialogue that actually matters to what the future products are going to be, like people just can't seem to grasp that. And I understand that people like action, but like I think some of the best, most calculated scenes in any TV show ever has been off of just dialogue and acting in the little tiny things. Like one of my favorite shows is Breaking Bad. I mean, Vince Gilligan is a king of putting little tiny things. Thanks, Zen. Vince Gilligan is a king at putting like little tiny like plugs here and there to make it so that all of a sudden everything comes full circle in a show and everything comes full circle in a project. So I really appreciated the pacing of the show. I loved the whole finale, how it was just a conversation with about 5 minutes of action. So the only issue I had with the show, and this is the only one, this is probably nitpicky, was Loki's a god. And we've seen him fight very well in some of the previous movies and projects we've seen him in. But then, like, we would see him in moments of this specific show. And it was like, I couldn't gauge the power level of Loki anymore, because he would be really strong in some fight scenes and be able to just kind of do his thing. But then there was the next fight scene where it was like he was struggling against humans, like, that don't have any powers, like that. Like, I know and at times he couldn't always use his magic, but like he's a very skilled fighter. We know that. Like, they kind of hyped up his knife fighting abilities like throughout a couple episodes. So that was my least favorite part, was the power level of Loki was kind of hard to gauge as the show kind of went on with like the fight scenes. But I mean, that might be nitpicky. So Tyler, what did you think of the pacing of the show, and did you have any issues with it?
Yeah, the pacing of the show was great, and I'm convinced at this point that the people that you're talking about that are complaining, they literally just want to see 45 minutes of people punching each other in the face for 6 episodes long, and that's all they want.
Only in the face?
And then if they were given that, then they would complain that there was no character development. Like,
Yep.
The last episode was fantastic. I don't care if people complain that it was just talking. That's a silly argument. like I said, they literally just want 45 minutes of people punching each other in the face.
Right. Like there's a weird strange line of it. Yeah.
That last episode did so much to set up the future of the MCU that there's no action scene that they could have put in that episode that would have helped the set up the MCU anymore. Someone in the comments said that the penultimate episode should have most of the action, and I agree. I think that's where a lot of the action should be, and then the finale should set up the future of the show. Unless the show is going to be a standalone show. If it's going to be a standalone show, by all means, make the last episode 45 minutes of people punching each other in the face. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I think the pacing of the show was excellent. I think it was short and sweet. And if anyone has any complaints about it being filler, it was 6 episodes long. How could they possibly have made any filler content?
There's no room to have a filler episode.
Every episode of this show is completely relevant. I think maybe the only thing that I could even see as being arguable as like filler was maybe they spent a little too much time physically on the planet of Lamentis, but I feel like the conversations they had there were important to build the relationship between Sylvie and Loki.
Right.
So even that, like I said, that's arguable that they spent too much time on Lamentis. Other than that, I feel like there's no argument for there being filler in the show. I give the pacing of the show a 9.7 out of 10.
Love it. Burke, where are you at?
So I'm kind of on the same boat. Having said that, what I've observed from the show is that while the pacing is good, the pacing is unorthodox. And I think that's where people are getting caught up, is that it's not following a structure that we're used to, right? We've kind of, in very recent... It seems like Game of Thrones kind of set this precedent. Season 9, episode 9 is the penultimate episode. The episode before the finale is always the penultimate episode. Where I don't think that was always the case. I think a lot of times the finale was supposed to be the big episode, and then Game of Thrones kind of started to switch that for us. And now we kind of come to expect this big episode, second to last episode. And this show did something very different where you almost didn't know what to expect out of each episode, but each episode followed the pace that it needed to for that episode. Like episode 1 was very, where are we going? You're pulling me into this room. Now you're pulling me into this room. And then like episode 2, it's like, okay, now we're on the hunt. This is our new mission. This is the story. This is what the story is now. Episode 3, story is entirely different now. We have an entirely different goal than we did episode 2, and it's super isolated, where now, which by the way, people say episode 3 is filler. Just to reiterate what Tyler said, absolutely not filler. Not only does it focus on this teamwork between Sylvie, or like this bonding between Sylvie and Loki, making their relationship make sense in the 4th episode.
Yeah.
But it also, what people don't realize, Loki in episode 1 just realized that his actions directly caused the death of everyone he loves. And his entire timeline, he's been coping, like he had no time in episode 1 or 2. He's been thrown around in episode 1 and 2. He had no time to cope or be alone with himself and his thoughts in the first 2 episodes to contemplate that his entire his multiverse is gone. He will never see his mother, his brother, his father. He will never see any of them ever again. And he has no time to sit and dwell on that. So that train scene where he's like drunk and he resembles Thor because he's honoring his brother that he lost and he's never going to see again. He's trying to bring back his feeling of family because he just realized he's never going to have that experience again. And so and then we also have Sylvie on the other side who, she just bombed the timeline. This was her one chance to get back at the people that ruined her life, and it just failed. Yeah. And so now she's living with everything I've been planning for probably thousands of years, right? Because that's how long it would take him to age to that point. Yeah. She's been planning this. They both fail. And so they're both, this is a introspective moment for both of them, that episode. Also, quick side note, they're Kree, which I did not realize in the beginning. I forgot about that. Lamentis is Kree, and Kree are superhuman. So that's why they are able to fight with Loki. So it seems
Yeah, that's
like
true.
he's
That's true.
weaker. But I totally forgot about that one.
The one thing too that Loki deals with, or doesn't even get to deal with, is that when shown the future events, this Loki has not lived through the death of his mother
he
yet.
hasn't.
So, and to him, she's the only person that he's ever felt love for. Like, he's never felt like anyone else has truly loved him except for his mother. So he's basically just told that, oh yeah, your actions directly led
you
to
kill your mom.
You sent these people to your mother, and then he's just left alone in there for like 5 minutes to deal with that.
Yeah. And I mean, across the MCU, her death was the catalyst for Loki's character development across the MCU.
It really was.
And so it was jump-started in this series by episode 1, her realizing that it happened.
100%.
So that was the thing with pacing, is that like every episode it's changing what we expect out of the series. And so episode 4 literally felt like a finale. It felt, oh, the show is done now. The show is done. And so like we left thinking, well, if this is the penultimate episode, right? I still kind of think it is. I think that was the best episode of the series. But and then 5 didn't give us what we expected in a second to last episode.
Yeah.
Because 4 changed the game. And another thing I kept saying to people is like, it was already at that point rumored to be season 2. Like, they don't have to wrap everything. Yeah. Because there's a season 2. So you can have that open. So ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. And also, just to reiterate what you said, people in rooms talking is what makes a show good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Watch
really
Mad Men.
what show it is. It doesn't matter if it's sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes. The weight of action sequences are only carried by the conversations in rooms between people. And if you don't have those and you don't build the characters in those ways to establish their motivation, their feelings, make them real to you, action sequences mean nothing.
Right.
I mean, look at like classic Loki. We were still able to feel for that character because we had conversations with him. We learned about his guilt. We learned about what drove him, so that when he did this big, grand magic power, which sure was cool to look at, looked dope, it was carried by the weight of understanding that he's finally repented for all the things he's felt guilty for. And so, like, ultimately, anyone that wanted more action, it would not have made the show better.
Right.
The show did not need any more action than what it gave us, and I think it found the right balance. That last episode, I actually think the least relevant scenes were the action scenes. Like,
100%.
It was good, fun to watch, but probably one of the least relevant scenes to the show.
What do you think, Mega?
I thought the pacing was really good. All 3 shows, I thought the pacing was really good, and Disney Marvel didn't do any like dragging it out any longer than it should have been. I like that it wasn't a movie in the first place, because they're trying to build the story of Marvel and they can't fit this into 2.5 hours, so they want to give them enough time to be able to explain and like bridge the gaps between the movies, and I think it's perfect. You know, they're trying to give us the story in the background so that we can understand what's going on with the next movies that are going to come out. Because if they can't, it'd be a really boring movie if it was just, you know, this 6-hour saga of just like, this is how the multiverse is being created, and this is how Scarlet Witch gets her powers finally, and then, you know, it's just like, it's just kind of ridiculous. So I enjoyed it. I don't think there needs to be any action in any of these shows for me to really enjoy it, because I'm learning about the characters. I'm watching them develop as, you know, villains or heroes, and I'm getting that bridge in between each movie, and so I know like the direction that they're going. Like, the action scenes don't really tell me anything about the show. They just like, someone's punching someone else, and, you know, there's conflict, and then that's it. So like, but it doesn't tell me like, you know, what the character's feeling, and like how they're developing, and what's changing them as a person, and what kind of background, and what are they going through, and what are they thinking about, and stuff like that. And like, that's what draws me into a show. And it's funny that you brought
the punching
up
for the movies.
What was that, Mega?
You brought up Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad had like one scene that sticks out in Breaking Bad the most to me is the one where Jesse Pinkman and Walter White are sitting in the lab trying to kill a fly. The entire episode.
The entire episode.
The fly episode. Like, that was like one. It was such an artistic and well done episode, but like, no, I don't know. No one really. I don't really talk about it, but I mean, that show really sticks out, or that episode really sticks out to me, because it was just so well done. It's very like artistic. I think it's right after Walter White killed Jesse's girlfriend, right? So it's like, you kind of see like the conflict in his face, right? He's like trying on the verge of like wanting to tell Jesse, and it's like there's so much drama in like one room just trying to kill a fly.
Wait,
Like,
we're not.
there doesn't need to be any action.
That was a good episode because Skylar wasn't in it at all.
Okay, we're not gonna go there right now. All
I
right.
know.
There is gonna be for
Just
those
had to get it out.
for those who are wanting to know, there is gonna be a podcast that me and Tyler are not actively working on yet, but there's gonna be a podcast where we watch Breaking Bad.
It's in pre-production.
We're gonna be watching episodes of Breaking Bad together because I keep telling him that Skylar White is actually a pretty good character in the show, and he just hates on her. I'm
dead set that she is the villain of the series.
Okay.
Character that you absolutely despise.
So we're gonna.
Hold on, guys. I'm getting a phone call from Kate. Hold on one sec.
Okay. I'm gonna mute you. Oh, he muted himself. Okay. So, so let's get to the favorite moments and least favorite moments of the show. My favorite moment of this show was 100% when we saw Mobius be just this down-to-earth guy that I think Loki really needed. In terms of, he's never had really like anybody, I guess, like shoot straight with him. Like even Thor, like when they were growing up, he used to like, the get help maneuver and like all those things. Like he's never had somebody like shoot straight from the hip with him and like be honest and be like, this is the plan, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're here for. And Mobius really believed in what the TVA was doing. He really believed everything that Mobius had to say, like as hard as it was to say. And in that moment where we see Loki trying to do what he normally does and like run away from the truth, and he still has that necklace on, he gets brought back to the seat, and then Mobius is like, okay, go ahead. Like after Loki gets kind of upset, he's like, I was only standing up to rant, and he's like, my bad. Like here, go for it. Sorry that there's no chair there anymore. That doesn't come back, but go for it. I loved this moment because like we finally get to see in the entire first episode, Loki sees his entire life and he doesn't believe that, and he just doesn't believe that any of this has happened. He doesn't get it. He doesn't believe Mobius, and Mobius tells him, no, this is your life. This is what you've done. This is what you did. And I think that was so key for the show because throughout the movies, we see Loki develop as this really good character. Like he's considered a hero at the end of it when it's said and done. But we have, like, in the back of my head, it was always like, well, this Loki has been literally been maybe a day out of his original timeline where he is very evil. Like he wants to totally control humanity. Like, and then we see this more humane side of Loki where like he sees this file, he sees how like him and Thor become not just friends but brothers, like officially, like they really do love each other, and like he finally gets this satisfaction of knowing that he's accepted, and that obviously we talked about the actions of him leading the Dark Elves to his mom, and that's a pivotal game changer for him. Like he doesn't want to be that type of person, and you can tell. And you can tell when he has that moment with Lady Sif as well, like where his balls get kneed into the galaxy. Like he finally like just is so open about wanting to be a better person and do the right thing, and it shows all the way to the end where he's like, I think this guy's telling the truth. I think we really need to like actually listen to what he's saying. And then Sylvie pulls the Loki that we would expect and does what she does. My least favorite moment was when they brought President Loki in. This guy was teased throughout the show quite a bit, and then like throw the promos for it, and then we get him for I think all of like 5 to 6 minutes. But yeah, I didn't like that part because like he was just kind of in and out of the show just as fast as he came in. So that was like my only least favorite part of the show, I guess. Like was that we didn't get more President Loki because he's pretty awesome.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go.
So one of the important
things about that scene because I agree that it was kind of like, oh, I want to see more of him. One of the important things of that scene though is like it's episode 5, right? We've seen how Loki is developed, and to me, a lot of people were like, oh, that scene was kind of dumb because it was just like, why is everyone just like running
Well, I don't think the
around?
scene was dumb, but go on.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think it's such a great scene because it props up our characters and say like, this
What
is how far
happened?
Loki's come. These are all the other Lokis,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry. You
this
okay?
is where Loki has come, where all of the trivial games of power and control doesn't affect him. He doesn't care about it anymore, and I think that's a really cool aspect of it. I would also say that we're going to get more of. I think you're going to see him because, like I said, I think the Void is going to play. All those characters are still around. Kid Loki and Loki Gator are going to be in Young Avengers for sure, without a doubt. So I think you'll see him again.
Yeah.
I gotta get going. Kate and Nora woke back up.
Okay.
But I'll say my favorite moment was Alligator Loki biting off President Loki's hand and the scream that he did. I was legit like LOLing real hard.
That was a
when
good
happened.
scream.
Dude, I like cried laughing for like 10 minutes.
Ronathan said terrible. He said that scene was terrible. I got old school Batman vibes for the bunker
He's
Loki
not
battle.
wrong. That was a very campy scene.
All that
I
was
think that was
missing was the
intentional,
screen
right?
boom and thwap. Anyways, go on.
That's how
Tyler.
like
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of like a least favorite moment, but I really enjoyed the whole show. Like I'm trying to think of like something that here's a nitpick for the show. I think that the pruning sticks were really stupid, and I don't understand how you could lose a fight with one of those because anytime anyone tried to connect with you, you could literally just touch them like before they'd have to have some type of super speed to be able to beat you.
Fair
So
enough.
I think the pruning sticks were kind of dumb. They should have been pruning guns. Other than that, I think
okay, I see what
the
you're
show is
saying.
really cool. Yeah, there's no way someone without another ranged weapon could beat you in combat. Before they could close the distance to harm you, it's the tip of the stick. You just touch any part of their body with, and they disappear. So like if someone was running towards you, just put the
You
stick
could fence
out.
with
like,
it.
Yeah, like literally, you just literally have to make any type of contact with them with the tip
I mean,
of the stick.
fencing
So.
is like a competitive sport
Yeah, you could fence with
at the
it.
end of the stick.
All right.
That's hard.
Yeah, I'll I don't know enough about fencing to argue with Burke about it, so I'll just go.
No, it's artwork.
Neither do I.
All right, guys. Yeah. I am here in places. You can find me there. So I gotta go.
Everybody check Tyler out on Twitch. He's
I'm
twitch.tv/TylerDakid.
Over here somewhere.
Yeah, you're pointing right at it actually.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm probably not. I'm still not good at camera left and camera right.
We've been playing
Oh,
Sea of
now
Thieves
I am.
together. Worth checking out.
Sick. All right, guys.
See you,
Have
Tyler.
a good one. See ya. Bye.
Bye. All right, let me get readjusted here. Oh, good. I thought that was gonna like totally mess up the placement to everything.
Was it easy?
Okay. Sorry about the gap there. So Mega, what was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part?
Favorite part. I'm a sucker for Loki. I'm complete opposite of what you were saying before about you really not liking Loki before this show, but I've always really loved Loki. I love Tom Hiddleston. I think he does an amazing
great
job
actor.
of playing the character. I think like as far as casting picks for characters, Loki and Tom Hiddleston are like on my top, aside from Robert Downey as Iron Man. But yeah, I think Tom Hiddleston does a great job as Loki. So every time he does something good in the show, it like really like those are my favorite parts. Like when he does something good in Infinity War and he like stands up to and then he gets killed, like that freaking broke my heart, dude.
It's
Because it's just
redemptive.
like it's like just ripped it out because it's like he's finally doing something good and then he freaking bites the bullet and then same thing happens in this show. Like he becomes good, right? And then he gets stabbed in the back and freaking gets pruned and then you don't realize until like we all knew, I guess, right? Because there's more episodes. There's no way
Yeah.
he was gonna be gone. But I mean, still, like he gets capped in this show too. But like, my favorite parts are just every time he turns his motive or like it's just no longer bad and like mischief. It's like he's actually seeing the good in himself and like trying to become a better person. Like those parts are like what I really enjoy about the show and watching him as a character develop and like turning a new leaf kind of thing. So
You know what was crazy to think about was I didn't mean to cut you off. You go ahead and finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
What's crazy to think about when I was watching that documentary yesterday was Tom Hiddleston talked about how he was 29 years old when he was cast as the role of Loki, and now he's going to be 40 by the time the show gets released. He's been playing this character for 11 years, and they did the math on like his screen time, which is probably why I thought the way I thought about the character. I think Loki was on screen like a total of 2.5 hours. Like, total. In all the projects he's been a part of. So, like, that's what they did the math on, and they were talking about that. Like, it was like 2.5 hours and all the projects that he was a part of. So it was actually really strange for them to like pick Loki as a character to do a show on, which is the way I was thinking. So they also like made it a point where they were like, we don't want this to be like the standard like anti-villain movie type thing, like Venom or like Morbius or anything like that's coming out. We want this to be something where it's different, like, because Loki's a complex character. Like, he wants to be good. Really, at the end of the day, he really does want to be a good character. So I thought that was interesting. But
Yeah.
so the last question, in terms of this show, before we
Hold
kind of
on. My least favorite part. My least favorite
oh,
part.
I'm
is
sorry. Go ahead.
Loki's. For some reason, I don't know why this is happening all the time, but Tom Hiddleston and Loki's hair flip. Like, he does a hair flip every time he stands up.
Like
Like,
the Black Widow landing.
That drove me nuts, actually.
It's,
That did drive me.
It's worse than the Black Widow landing because it's too much hair flipping. Like, it's just to get up off of his seat and he hair flips. It was a little too much in the show. It made me laugh. I don't know where that even why that started developing, but he was doing it a lot.
Yeah,
For me,
I actually can agree with that. Like, I remember, like, now I'm like going through all of them in my head because of you. Damn it! Like,
yeah, watch the show back and count how many times he does it.
I'm never gonna watch it the
unreal.
same.
It's unreal.
Please make an animation of me flipping my hair like with Loki's. And just like getting a shield, like slicing my hair off because of it. Like, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But, so did Kang? The ultimate question is, do you guys think that did Kang lie and actually want his variants to be freed, or is this one of those things where like he was actually telling the truth in that moment? Because the show is Loki. The reason I thought of this question is the show is called Loki. Loki is a god of mischief. He's very unpredictable, and in some states, very predictable to a sense. Because they know he's going to stab someone in the back. Do you think, the reason I thought of this was, do you think that Kang kind of knows that about Loki? Given he sees everything and knows everything. Do you think that like he knew Loki would make the right choice and it would divide him and Sylvie? Or do you think that like this is something that he wanted to happen? Like, what's the truth level? Is there a lie in there at all? So did Kang lie and want his variants freed, or was he 100% telling the truth? Like, where do you guys stand on that? Let's start with Mega on this one.
I don't think he lied. Kang typically in the he wasn't really big on like being dishonest to get his way, you know? It was more like having the power to get his way. So I think he was being honest. Like, I genuinely think that variant of Kang was just tired, you know, and just wanted someone to take over, and was hoping like in that, you know, the Loki. I mean, he first of all, he wasn't even expecting both of them to be there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I think he was being honest, and I think he was just tired, wanted someone to take over the mantle. Being there for literally, I don't know, an eternity, probably what it felt like, sitting in that chair trying to control the timeline. So, you know, I mean, if anyone probably were in that position, they'd fucking, you know, probably just turn a gun on themselves, just being, you know, alone in there with a clock that talks.
Honestly, like that part scared the absolute piss out of me when Miss Minute showed up out of nowhere. Burke, what do you think?
I also lean towards like why lie. It comes down to what they want to do with its powers. Like if they, I'm trying to think of how a Kang will be threatening. Aside from, I mean, obviously he is right, but like, what are his powers? What like that we're gonna get in the MCU? And I I was thinking about this idea where this version of Kang that they could be writing would be connected to his other variants, where like as opposed to other people where they can't communicate. Like maybe all these variants are like in cahoots together, where they're like communicating across multiverses. And I was like, if that was the case, well then like maybe he'd want to die. Like I don't, or maybe he like reincarnates in multiverses. Like maybe that's part of his character set. Like
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're like reworking him in like, because he does say see you soon, and that could just be taken as like a direct, or like oh you're gonna see one of my variants, like in a way we're the same person. See you soon. Or could it mean that like he wanted to be killed because it's like he's the only one left, and like he wants to do it over? But I don't know. The more I think about the reason, it just doesn't make sense. As just saying he wanted to be done with it. I think I think that's all there is. I think he's done.
I think he was telling the truth the entire time. I don't think there was a lie to it. I don't think there was a game. And the reason I think that is because, he said, I've seen all these things. Like you just said, like exactly what you just said to Burke and you, Mega. Like it was like, why lie? Like there's no point. Yeah. Because ultimately what makes me think he wasn't lying was the TVA, like propaganda was not propaganda. Like it was 100% factual. Like he put it in a way for people that are breaking the laws that he's created to be more understandable. Obviously, he doesn't want people coming towards the end of time where he's at, which is why he had Eliath as like a guard dog for that. But like, it was really interesting for me to think about that, where it was like, well, why lie? Because ultimately, he was completely telling the truth, and I think that was the best opening of any Marvel project we've ever had, which with the voices and just like showing all the different universes and realities, and then kind of wrapping it all back up and showing you that the sacred timeline's real. Like it's like this is a thing. Like he has been protecting it. He's not lying about this. So why lie to Loki and Sylvie about it when everything that everyone thought was propaganda is actually not propaganda and it's real? Like, I know that people got upset with WandaVision, that like there was like all these strange clues and hints towards a bigger villain that we're just not gonna mention because it's caused a lot of drama. That is dumb. Like it's stupid. Like the groundwork was laid for Mephisto, and that didn't happen. We didn't get to see that. I don't think we're gonna see much of Kang in the Multiverse of Madness, personally, because we know that Nightmare is the villain for that. Like that's gonna be its own thing. I think if we do see Kang, it's gonna be like an after credits thing, like we talked about earlier. But yeah, I don't think he was lying at all. Needless to say. So, with that being said, do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up and plug and close out?
Yeah. Is Kang gonna be blue?
I hope so.
So, well, because I didn't know this before. It's an armor that makes him look like that. So it's actually not his skin color. He does look normal.
Oh.
And so It's just the suit of armor that's purple. And so I think we'll get a variation of it, but I think
I know it's the armor, but I'm just like,
I'm down. Oh, for sure. They have to, right? They got it.
I freaking hope
Oh,
so.
wait. Oh, maybe not purple, though, because of big purple villains. Maybe like
he was more of a blue than a purple. But I just hope he's a different color. Because, yeah.
I might rework that.
Galaxy Man says that Bruce Campbell is going to reveal his character for Doctor Strange 2 at Comic-Con in December, which will be very exciting. All right. Well, that was a really, really great, fun episode, actually, to record. I know we haven't been keeping up with this show as much as I have with Nerd Sports Zone for fantasy football stuff, but this is one I want to try to get revamped and get people on for, So again, thank you guys for coming on and hanging out. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you? Mega, you go first.
You can find me on Twitch. It's just MegaGeek with an _.
It's quite mad. Let's do this.
Callisto's dropping links.
Enjoy.
Your day's work.
Looks like someone had the same idea. Let's see how this works.
Do you when do you normally? Oh, what's that? That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm
Wait,
drunk.
who did that?
I'm so drunk in that clip. Great.
What do you typically do? Like,
What do I typically? What do you mean?
what's your content like?
Oh, I play a lot of variety games, but I make a lot of effects and stuff, visual effects on my stream. So if you come there, you can see a lot of the stuff that I create on a weekly basis.
I will say this with it. If you guys are ever looking for like a late night raid, go raid Mega. He probably has the hands down greatest raid notification I've ever seen on Twitch. It's the funniest shit ever.
Thank you.
I'll just leave it at that. It's the funniest thing ever. Like you trust me. I'll leave it at that. You will not be disappointed. You need to go check his channel out.
Just to rate it.
It's the coolest thing ever. He puts in a lot of work on his animations, so
That's awesome.
go check his channel out. Burke, where can people find you? What projects do you got going on?
Well, you can find me in an hour on Twitch. I'll be streaming Dark Knight, or the Arkham Knight. Sorry. I've done my first playthrough of the trilogy, and I'm on Arkham Knight now. I've never played it through. I had no spoilers, so I don't know who the Arkham Knight is yet. I have some theories. I think it's one of the Robins. They're kind of laying it on heavy now for that story that I'm thinking I'm right, but we'll have to see. That's been a lot of fun. So I normally do that at 1, but I added that at everything around. So I'm doing it today at 6. And then you can also see I do battle brackets, which we're doing a hero teams battle bracket where you vote and you determine who would win these fights, and we go through week by week and build out and decide who wins the fights until final victor is determined. So that's pretty fun. We do that every Thursday, and then we do Burktastic 4, my Marvel RPG series.
It's really good, guys.
Players play as their own Marvel characters. And then I also have on Monday my game shows, which I've had Mike on. I do fandom fights, I do Hater Great, and Hot Mic Challenge, 3 of my game shows I play. And I do main topics on Mondays as well. So do a lot of different things. You can find me twitch.tv, the one right here. And that's about it.
I am on Twitch TV / The Avenged Nerd. I'm a variety streamer. I've been playing lots of Sea of Thieves lately. Red Dead Redemption, I haven't touched in a bit, but they have that new Blood Money expansion, so we'll be looking at that along with some of the Avengers games. I'll be doing these recordings for the Nerd Rebellion podcast. I have a second podcast out called Nerd Sports Zone with John and Mike. If you guys like fantasy football, it's about ads, trades, drops, waiver wires. And right now in the off season, we're covering pretty much what's going on with all of the major headlines between UFC and NFL, and some baseball talk. Me and John aren't very well versed in the NBA world, but we cover a lot of that stuff. It's becoming more fantasy based and oriented again as the seasons and drafts are coming up. I've already got 3 drafts to plan and be a part of. If you are having a question of if it's good advice, I have a trophy back there. I won our streamer league last year, and I took essentially second place, but on a technicality 5th because we had people admit to cheating, so they knocked me on my playoff spot. So I'll say it this way: the worst place I've taken legitimately is 3rd place in fantasy in 6 years. I've won 4 times in 6 years. John has taken 3rd. He almost beat me last year, so that's where you can find me, and also at the Twitter handle down there. And I'm also in MegaGeek's chat and Burke's chat quite a bit. So, one would say, Phantom Fight champion of defending Breaking Bad on Burke's show. Soon to be 2 against Tylerdakid.
Oh, that'll be good. We'll grab one of Tyler's victory rounds and throw it against Breaking Bad again. See how that goes.
Let's do it. But that's where you can find me. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and call that the episode. And I want to say thanks again, guys. To close out, I want to 3 sponsors that I've reached out to. I want to thank Raise Energy. If you like energy drinks in cans or to-go packets, they have them. They are 0 carbs, calories, or artificial dyes. They have a good technology in them to where you don't crash off of it. And if you use other products for like pre-workouts and proteins, they have those as well. If you want to know more about that, check out the Raise Energy link in the About panels on the Twitch channel if you're listening to this, and then you'll use code The Adventure at all caps. You'll get 15% off your order. You can go ahead and check out Nerd or Die if you're a streamer and you're looking to start streaming or update your layouts. You'll get 20% off with that link. And then if you also check out Player One Coffee, it's a coffee company based off of video games where they have a flavor called Leroy Jenkins. They have anything from light to dark roasts, and they have specialty flavors, and they have subscription boxes where you get a special flavor that only you get that is not for sale. So you can check that out. You'll get I think it's 5 to 10% off on that. With that being said, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.